Hi everyone, my name is John. I'm a developer advocate here at Arise, and I'm going to walk you guys through an example of collecting human feedback using annotations. Annotations is a new feature that we just rolled out within the platform, so we're excited to show what it can do and how you can use it in some real-world applications. So if I go through here, a little bit of background on what annotations are in case you're not familiar. So annotations are really just custom labels that can be added to spans and traces within your application. So these could be indicating correctness or human feedback from a particular run. They could be indicating really whatever you want. So the annotations can be used to indicate human feedback that you've collected. So if you've got a set of human labelers that you're using to label data, or if you've got kind of a thumbs up, thumbs down sort of button within your application to rate responses, you can use annotations to take that in and show them within the platform. That's actually what I'll show you guys in a demo in a second. And then you can also use them to indicate evaluation results. So if you used Phoenix before, you've probably seen some of this within the platform, but you can use these annotations to show the result of evaluations that have been run on your data. And then once you have those in, you can use them to kind of categorize and group together different spans that meet certain criteria, and then ultimately create data sets out of those to run experiments on or to export and use for some sort of fine tuning. But before I go further, I actually want to just jump into the platform and show you what this looks like, because it's pretty cool to see within the Phoenix platform itself. So I've got just a couple traces I've captured here from a chatbot app. We'll jump into one of them here where I'm just asking, what are the different hosting options or options for hosting Phoenix? And I get kind of a generic response. It doesn't look super great. And so I'm actually going to add an annotation here that I'm just going to say, in this case, I'm going to say the correctness. We'll name our annotation type here. So we'll say this correctness annotation, and we're going to say that it is bad. It's not very correct in this case. We'll say it's like a 0.02. I'm being a little bit not being too specific with the numbers there. And then I can add an explanation as well too, which is useful if others are going to be looking into the annotation. So I'll say that this response is generic and includes untrue information. And then I can save that there, and that will be added to my span from there. So again, if you've got human labelers, this is kind of how they could interact with the tool. And then if I click out, you see that we've added in my correctness feedback there. If I pop this up, you'll see we get a kind of, if I open up, you'll see it here on our individual span. I could add the same here onto the top level for the span if I wanted to. It just depends on where I want to add it in there. You can see I've got correctness now that I've used it. We'll say it's bad just to show you what that looks like as well. I can close that. And so you can see now we get it appearing on the top level span as well as the interior one. And you see that we will also kind of roll this up into a top level metric that you can see along with any other evals that you're running within the platform. So it makes it very easy to kind of add in these labels that you could then use. Say I wanted to filter onto these, I could add annotations is correctness and label is bad. You can see I've got now just spans that meet that criteria. I could take these, I could create a data set that I could then use for fine tuning or exporting or running experiments, all kinds of things from there. So useful way to add annotations within the platform. And what you'll see is if I do that, you kind of get the situation where I'm collecting spans, inputs and outputs from different runs of my application. I'm augmenting them with now human as well as previously LLM annotations. So if you've used evals within Phoenix before, you've seen what that LLM evaluation process looks like. And then those will be kind of merged together with the different span information to form some kind of data set that I can use. So really easy kind of way to use within the platform. And that can be helpful if you're going to go annotate a small subset of data or something along those lines. But where this gets more powerful is where you can use it in more programmatic senses. So I mentioned you can do it in the UI like we saw, or you can do it more programmatically. And so this is where you could use either our Python SDK, our TypeScript SDK, or just a straight API call like the one that you see on the right here to programmatically log that feedback. So again, think like a thumbs up, thumbs down button in a chatbot, connecting that through into your data here. And you'll see that this call takes a few parameters. It takes a span ID, so which span should that feedback be added to, the name for the particular kind of label that you're adding. So that was correctness for us, might be relevancy, might be hallucination detection, something like that. And an annotator kind will just be human or LLM. In this case, will be human. And then the result will be kind of the interior information about that evaluation or about that annotation. So the actual value, if you want to add a score to it, or if you want to add an explanation. So super easy. We're just hitting our Phoenix endpoint plus V1 span annotations to actually log that. So depending on how you're hosting Phoenix, you might have a different endpoint here. And then once you have that, you can send through those different annotations. And one of the things that comes up here is that you have to be able to make sure that you're tracking the span ID, because you'll notice in the API call, you've got span ID as one of the parameters. So to do that, this is kind of a diagram. You can find this in our docs as well too. This is sort of just an example. You could really collect the span ID however you want to. Whenever you log information to Phoenix, you'll get a span ID in response there. And so one example of this is, say you have a chatbot with a front end and a back end. User puts in some input that goes to your back end, which kicks off the chain that's generating a response to that input with a few different pieces of information that are being sent to Phoenix. At any point during that chain, you can grab the active span, and that'll give you the span ID. And when you send your output back to your front end, you just include that span ID in case the user wants to leave feedback, and you're going to need it later. So in this case, user thumbs down or thumbs up to the message, then you send that along with the span ID to your back end to send the annotation call to Phoenix. And so let me show you an example of what that actually looks like in practice here. So I've got a base chatbot app, and we've actually got an example of this in our GitHub. So I'll include that link down below as well too. But say I wanted to have it say, tell me a joke. It's going to generate a joke for me. And, that's pretty good. I'll thumbs that up, say it's a good response. You'll see our feedback gets logged here. And then if I actually jump over into Phoenix, you'll see, let me just refresh, pop that up. You'll see we've got our new message here, and that feedback has come along as well. You can see we've actually got some built-in filters you could use if you wanted to kind of filter the data down here. So that's it connected to a live application. To show you what's happening in the background there, let me just switch over to the actual code. Again, all available on our GitHub. You guys can go check out what we've done there. But all we're really doing there is we've got a TypeScript app here that's powering that chatbot. And I'm going to go through, and I've got this controller feedback that's listening in on the on our back end here. And then it's going to be set up to make this kind of API call that you see here through to that endpoint we looked at before. So here you've got the span annotations endpoint that's being created. And then we're just creating a body like you saw in that example with the span ID, annotator kind, feedback, all those parameters from before. And then this span ID is something that's just coming through from the front end of our application. So if you look on more of the front end here, we've got a case where as messages are coming through in we've got chat items, which define that individual row of a response within our chatbot. As those are coming through, we're collecting the message that gets returned by them, which is including that span ID, and then just making sure that we hold on to that span ID. And if they click on that feedback, thumbs up or thumbs down, we're including that in the call to our backend here that's listening on the API feedback endpoint. So this call here would then go trigger the API call that we're making from our backend. Honestly, most complicated part of this is just the front end to back end communication there and making sure you keep a hold of the span ID as you go through it. But again, check out the example in more detail. There's a bunch of instructions on how to run through that. And hopefully that gives you a better idea of how you can use annotations in a live real case, start collecting feedback, and then later on can use that feedback to fine tune your application, to export, to zoom in on areas where you might be needing to improve or augment your application. If you have any questions, feel free to either drop them in the comments below or jump into our Slack channel. I always love to receive the questions. And if you're loving Phoenix, please give us a star on GitHub. It really helps out from our side and makes our team very happy. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.